back to GTD. Huge weekend last weekend. A lot of fun things to get into and talk about. It's pretty much how it's going to be for the rest of, at least, the next 162, give or take, days or games, if you will. But, yeah, super excited. Summer is coming. MLB is here, so we have that. NASCAR F1's back this week, so March Madness is coming to a close. Just putting March down, opening up to April. Just a super fun time if you're a sports fan. We'll just get right into it because we got a lot of stuff to cover today. Yeah, like we mentioned, MLB opening day, initial reactions go.
The Reds is so over. Matt McClain's out for basically the year. I'm sad. But as far as non-Reds reactions, baseball was super fun this weekend. Yeah. Fanatics jerseys look absolutely awful. I don't know if you watched any of the Yankees games.
Sweat.
Oh my goodness. Those might be, out of any ones I've seen, the worst Fanatics uniforms. Yeah. Those Yankees aways. They look like you bought them for $3.99 off Wish.com.
Like adult beer league softball.
Yeah, jerseys. It's so bad.
Guys sweating everywhere trying to get some strikes in, but
just happy baseball's back though. The actual baseball part was great to watch.
It was a super fun weekend. I know Thursday opening day, I had my laptop up with how many games it could fit, my TV up. I just watched as much baseball as possible. Yeah, just super fun weekend. We saw a lot of good, a lot of interesting. There wasn't really a whole lot. I mean, there was some bad baseball, but overall it was pretty good. I mean, it wasn't like last year where they had to get used to things like the pitch clock, bases, things like that. So it was kind of just nice to see the opening weekend go so smoothly. A lot of offense this year again.
Yeah.
Which is fun to see if you're, a home run guy, hard hit guy, slugging guy. If you notice, like, they don't even show half the time averages now. It's all slugging percentage or OPS because those numbers look better on camera, and they do. Averages have gone down.
Well, I'm a big fan of OPS anyways, even though I wish we would have more, like, contact hitters who are going to do more than just hit the ball up in the air and try to swing for the fences. I do think OPS is a pretty good representative stat.
Yeah, and to start this baseball season, I didn't have a gift basket or something, but Easter was yesterday, so this is your giant Easter basket.
Oh my god!
Why don't you open that up and see what's inside?
Oh, thank you.
That is handmade.
I have a perfect bonfire for this to go in.
That is handmade specifically for you. You can, whenever the cold and lonely nights of being a Reds fan, you can cuddle up with this and become a fan of a real baseball team. We'll just put this over here for now because I don't want to see it get lit on fire. No, but in all seriousness, let's break down some of the best dudes we saw come out of the weekend. And I know it's still early, so some of this isn't sustainable. Or for these guys, maybe. I mean, I think your top guy right now in the NL is Mookie Betts. I mean, just lights out. I mean, he started hot in Korea and then just did not slow down.
Yeah.
I mean, just made the Cardinals look like tough. I mean, just home run, home run, home run. He's in the leadoff spot, so he's getting the game set right. It's just, and you can't really pitch around him. I know Ohtani's not hitting as well as Ohtani should, but he's
still there.
Right.
Yeah.
He's going to at some point, and you can't pitch around him because you have Freeman behind him. So you pretty much have to push to Betts in the leadoff spot because you can't put him on for Ohtani or Freeman.
It feels like he's leading the MLB in every category right now, though, with average still at 500, and then the OPS over 1,700 right now, which is absolutely insane. Obviously, if he kept that up, give him every award ever immediately, but I doubt that's sustainable. It's still an amazing opening weekend for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's up to, 4 home runs?
Yes.
And another guy in their lineup who kind of came out of nowhere, Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah.
He's got 3 home runs, and, I mean, just ridiculous start to the season.
Just reminding people he's still good at baseball.
Yeah, he's kind of, it reminds me of what Jason Hayward did last year. Jason Hayward had some tough seasons towards the end of his career in Chicago, and then goes out to L.A., and in his first few weeks of L.A., he just lights it up. I mean, just hitting for average, hitting for home runs. And obviously it slowed down as the year went on. He is older, but he kind of revitalized his career because he probably shouldn't have been an everyday starter, but now he is. He submitted himself into the lineup because of what he did early last year, and I think Teoscar Hernandez is going to do the same here. Obviously, he's an everyday player still, and I mean, he showed that he may be more than that, and probably definitely move up this Dodgers lineup. So that's scary for baseball fans to see that even a guy that they got in Teoscar Hernandez is just going off in this early season. But in the American League, you have Juan Soto. I mean,
that even though it's only a rental, that's looking great so far for New York.
Right, and it's his first. It was his first ever game for arguably the biggest MLB franchise, and one of the biggest rivals that we have right now is Yankees Houston's in Houston, and I mean he just said, "What? I'm here. Let's get after it. Let's go get it." And he did. I mean, Josh Hader looked rough for Houston, but they don't have a win yet.
No,
So, I mean, they don't have a home win.
they're behind the Oakland A's
going to the last playoffs, right? So, I mean, and obviously they're gonna figure it out. But
no, they're gonna be behind the A's all year.
that would be, you talk about a flip in baseball. That would be unheard of.
Well, the A's clearly weren't happy with being fourth because they just sent down Astoria Ruiz to AAA for no reason. He's hitting 429 after first weekend.
It's like their owner is the lady from Major League. Like, I got to be able to move, so we have to keep losing so I can move.
So bad.
Vegas. They had more fans in the parking lot in Oakland than they did in the game. The fans gathered, tailgated, did the whole opening day shebang, and then when the gates opened, they just kind of all hung back and was like, we'll watch it from out here. It's better than... Which is kind of weird because they want the park to stay open, yet they're not going into the park.
Well, I don't know if you've ever been to Oakland Coliseum, but it's not a nice place to be.
I get that, but they're the ones arguing about them moving.
I think their hope is that by doing this, you're going to somehow boycott the owner into selling the team. The bad news is that owner has enough money to where he can do whatever he wants, and you're not really going to bother him. But it's really their only way to show their displeasure is not pay for tickets and pay for concessions.
There's a chance they don't go to Las Vegas, but there's not a chance they stay in Oakland.
Well, you saw the lease got extended so they at least have some time to figure out where they're going to go, what they're going to
do. By the time, especially you graduate college, they will be out of Oakland. So just get ready for it, Oakland A's fans. I know you have been the past year. Let's talk about some offensive guys. One of the most fun things I saw out of the weekend was Bobby Miller.
He was nasty.
Nasty. I mean, the number 2 guy right now for the Dodgers has an 88 to 90 mile an hour changeup that just, I mean, dives out of the batter. I have a video I put up for y'all against the Cardinals, but there's no chance. I'm sorry, you're not hitting that pitch. And so he was really fun to watch. And if Yamamoto can figure it out, then you kind of get, okay, the Dodgers. The big talk was they're pitching. They got a lot of hurt guys that'll come back later. But
if you look later in the year, Bobby Miller is a 3 after, Walker Buehler and Glasnow. If you have him as a 3 and they're all 3 pitching at their peak, that's scary.
And then if Yamamoto figures out in the 4 spot, I mean,
he had a much better outing in his second game.
He did. MLB said he dominated. I don't know if it was a great outing. I don't know if it was dominating against a weaker Cardinals lineup as well. But they could figure it out and be scary. Like, I mean, they are what they should be, a World Series contender with the money and the talent they have. So, I mean, anything less, honestly, them and the Braves, anything less than a World Series is probably a disappointment, especially the Braves last few years in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The exits they've had in the playoffs. I know they were expecting more. But, just if Bobby Miller can sustain what he's doing, I know he's young, and I know he did he showed it last year, and just to continue that this year, I mean, he's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and then a guy I want to give some love to is the Royals ace, Cole Reagans, who really came on last year, had a great last half of last season, started to break on the scene kind of out of nowhere. Wasn't really a highly touted prospect or anything, and then goes out for his first start this year and set the opening day record for strikeouts by a Royals starter with 9. So great outing from Cole Reagans. I think Royals fans finally have something to be really happy about in the rotation with this guy. I know you had your super highly touted prospect Asa Lacy, who just hasn't been able to stay healthy in the minor leagues, and this might be kind of your replacement for that guy who's going to be at the top of the rotation for you, big strikeout guy, and really be able to mow through lineups. So I really like what they have in Reagans right now. I think he's going to be one of the better pitchers this season.
And the Royals mashed over the weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, just guy after guy, bomb, bomb, bomb. I mean, they hit, man. So, I mean, just exciting for them. We'll get into where we think they'll end up down the road a little bit later when we give our playoff picks and wildcard winners and whatnot and our World Series matchup. But on a sadder note for pitching, especially for Cubs fans out there, Justin Steele got the opening day start for the Cubs and a Cy Young contender last year, projected to be a Cy Young contender this year. A little bit of sustained a hamstring injury going after a ground ball, kind of bunt type ground ball. We made the play. I mean, worked through it, got the out. Props to him. But just immediately came up, grabbed his hamstring. He's expected to miss all of April. He is throwing though, so that's a good thing. Keep his arm fresh. It's just that hamstring injury.
Just finicky always with those things, and even as a Reds fan, that's something you never want to see. You always want to see these guys healthy and doing their best.
Yeah. We'll move. So Rice Hoskins, obviously not a beloved player in baseball, didn't help himself. Well, he didn't help himself when he got to the Brewers either. So
Yeah.
we'll say that. I mean, I know I don't like the Brewers. You don't like the Brewers.
No.
Not many people doing this. You live in Milwaukee, but yeah, it slid. Kind of. I mean, he definitely.
Yeah.
I mean,
It.
the umpires called it right. They got him out. He slid late, cleated. Then Johan Ramirez threw behind him, but he wasn't trying to.
Yeah.
The ball slipped. He appealed his suspension, and it worked out for him.
Which credit to the MLB. I know we harp on a lot of times for incorrect suspensions and things, but this was done correctly. It was obviously not intentional, and sometimes with these players having a good day, you think, oh, you're going to retaliate throwing behind him, which some people thought they did with Reese Hoskins, really trying to hit him there. But it was obvious that it wasn't intentional, so I'm glad that Ramirez is not being suspended for this.
But the slide, definitely intentional, and just him mocking him from the dugout, wah, wah, like,
Yeah.
he's not a good look for Rice Hoskins. And next time they play each other this year, just look out for some stuff, because that's definitely going to build. And Rice Hoskins is probably going to have...
Reese Hoskins is too.
Yeah, Reese Hoskins. He's definitely gonna have some beef with a lot of players this year.
All 7 Brewers fans are about to get really mad at you.
Whatever. But yeah. So the segment that I'm excited to bring now that baseball season is officially underway is, and I'll put on my cool baseball shirts for this.
Yes.
Is our bat flip of the week. So this week it belongs to Adolis Garcia. His game tying home run on opening night on ESPN. So it was a primetime game. That's great. It was against my Cubbies, however.
Can we turn that to an L? Can someone do some clever thing? Make it an L flag?
2 in a row. If we win tomorrow, that's a winning streak. So I'll put the video up for y'all, but I'll kind of just break it down a little bit. Just super. I mean, the atmosphere was crazy in Texas. I mean, it was the most expensive opening day game ticket, and for good reason. I mean, it was an electric game. The momentum kind of got killed when Justin Steele went down.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, still, a good game. So just take a look at the home run. He bats it. He gets the bat up in the air and not really spikes it. He kind of just throws it up and just lets gravity do the work.
Yeah.
And I mean, walks it off in his rainbow cleats, which looked pretty cool.
They look amazing, yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, that's just Adolis Garcia for you.
Yes. Is anyone surprised it's him winning the first Bat Flip of the Week award? No. I'm not.
He may win 1 or 2 more of these this year.
Yeah.
But really excited to bring these to you every week. We'll go through and send us, like, if you have a bat flip or even pitchers. I mean, Trevor Bauer a few years ago with the...
Yeah.
So pitcher celebrations have been more prominent. So just let us know what you think should win. And we may break it down or whatever.
I don't know. Did you watch the Auburn baseball game that went into 12 innings a couple days ago?
I did.
The celebration one of the Texas A&M relievers had in like the 11th, where he just went absolutely nuts after the last
college
strikeout.
baseball. I mean, every single day you can go through and pick, a bat.
That's a great celebration, though.
Yeah, it was. And Auburn still not being able to scratch an SEC. Oh, we had the one against Arkansas.
Yeah.
But yeah, they look rough against SEC talent. I guess we'll close out MLB talking about our playoff picks. So I'll let you go first, and I'll put it on the screen for y'all to see. Break it down for me.
I'm going to start in the NL East, where I have the Atlanta Braves winning this. I think just Braves up and down are the best built roster in this division, and the NL and maybe all of baseball. The only question for them is the postseason success. I think everyone knows what the Braves are in the regular season. This is a juggernaut. This is a team that, especially with the addition of Chris Sale, it's looked pretty good so far, and Spencer Strider with that new curveball, they look really, really good right now. So I think they're definitely going to get it done in the NL East. NL Central, I have my Reds. I like this team a lot. I'm very high on us right now. I think the bullpen is a concern, but the starting rotation should be getting Nick Lodolo back in a couple weeks, which is going to be a really big boost. He's looked nasty in everything he's thrown since on his rehab journey right now. And then this rotation struggled with depth last year, but shouldn't have that problem now with the addition of Nick Martinez, who looked good enough. And then this lineup, I think there's a lot to be excited about with the addition of Jamer Candelario, a fully healthy Jonathan India, who looked great over opening weekend, Will Benson, who right now has a 100% hard-hit ball rate, which is pretty good, and then the development of some of these other younger guys. Then out in the NL West, it's going to be the Giants for me, which might be a surprise to some people, but I just think the Dodgers don't have enough pitching right now, especially in that bullpen, to really be a consistent contender here. I do think they'll make the playoffs, but I have the Giants winning that division overall.
Yeah, I mean, our National League kind of looks the same. I have obviously the Braves in the East. I just think they've proven time and time again that they're capable of winning the East, and that lineup it's not getting worse year to year. They didn't make a whole lot of adjustments in the offseason. I think like one or two small moves here and there.
By the way, Jared Kelnick looks good for them
It
already.
is that was their biggest
Yeah.
move of the season. I'm still not
Watch
sure.
out for Mets fans if
Yeah,
Jared Kelnick breaks out with the Braves of all teams.
yeah. I'm still not sure why the Mariners let him go, but yeah, I just
They did get Edwin Diaz, to be
that
fair.
is true. But the Braves are winning the East. And then we'll jump over the West because I agree with you there too with the Giants for the exact same reason: pitching, pitching, pitching. We talked about at the top of the show. The Dodgers have pitching potential, but until they show it, until the league sees it, then I have the Giants just because I mean it's a great one-two punch what they got. Snell, he did a minor league rehab assignment, but he's
Yeah.
going to be in the rotation. So once that gets all figured out, and I mean they did pretty good. Jung Ho Lee had his first home run. That was pretty fun. Had a little
Yeah,
bullshit
that was nice.
that was funny. It was good to see. The Central, I have the Cubs. I know we both chose our teams, but realistically,
These are the best two teams with a chance of winning the
the
division.
Pirates you could talk about, but I think they're gonna do what they did last year. Have a really great opening to the year.
They're
really
in
great
division lead
lead
right
to-
now.
Right. Just have a really good 2 months and they kind of fall off. The Cubs, I think the lineup, if they start hitting the way they hit, kind of in the summer last year into late summer, early fall, they'll hit fine. The pitching, I'm a little worried, especially with Justin Steele kind of missing a whole month now.
Yeah.
Imanaga had his debut today, struck out 9 through 6, showed great stuff. He'll probably move up the rotation a little bit when they get a chance to reset that. It's just gonna have to do with their pitching. And I mean, Cal Hendricks was good at one point. I'm not sure he's kind of a veteran now.
Yeah.
The Cubs pitching looks the same. Is kind of the issue. They have a lot of soft tossers that nibble and piece you apart and change up this, change up that. And I just think teams kind of get used to that, seeing that over and over again, and they'll start to hit them.
Yeah. The thing is for you guys though, the X factor you have. If it wasn't for your managerial changes, I would have the Reds by a landslide here. But having Craig Counsell running that Cubs team, I think is going to make this really, really close. I think this is a division race that could potentially even come down to the last couple weeks of the season.
I agree. If David Ross was here, Cubs finished third to the Reds, Pirates. May finished fourth. I mean, David Ross kind of ejected his team for the playoffs really quickly last year, and it showed. I mean, he didn't play Christopher Morel last year. He DH'd him a little bit and sat him on the bench. Craig Counsell's one of his first quotes once becoming Cubs manager is Christopher Morel will be an everyday player because Christopher Morel
should
be an everyday
He's
player.
very good at baseball.
I know it's early, but he's lighting the baseball up. He had a Little League home run today. It was counted as a single, I think. But he's a playmaker. He's electric and he's a playmaker. He does need to figure it out on defense. Has a few errors already to start the season. But he's never played third consistently at the major league level. So. But he's a talent. You let him figure it out. You give him some leeway, and you just let him figure it out. But I mean, yeah, we'll jump up. So I have the Giants, Cubs, and Braves. And the wild card for the NL, I have in no particular order the Phillies, the Dodgers, and the Diamondbacks. So I do have 3 teams from the West, 2 from the East, and I don't think that shocks anybody. Phillies been the wild card team the last few years. They're probably going to make the wild card again. The Dodgers probably the top wild card if I had to guess. Just because of their lineup and depth or whatever. So in the Diamondbacks, I have sneaking in over the Reds or Padres.
Yeah.
I mean they're just a good young fun team to watch. So I mean and I think your wild card looks exactly the same.
I have these same 3 teams. I do think the Phillies are my top wild card at this point. I just like the way this team's built a lot. I think if they were in any other division except the one that the Braves are in, they would probably win it. Then
I think they win the West.
Yeah, I do. I think there's more consistent pitching talent on this Phillies team than there is on the Dodgers, and then I take this Phillies in the lineup every day of the week over the Giants. So
I think if any of these wildcard teams were in the Central, they probably win by
a
good margin.
Sure.
But
except maybe the Diamondbacks. I don't know that the Diamondbacks win the Central by a big
Diamondbacks
margin.
it'd be
close. Yeah.
Right.
But so I have those same 3 teams in my NL wild card. Then over to the AL and the AL East, I have the Baltimore Orioles. I love this team a lot. It's probably my favorite non-Reds team in baseball. I love these young stars that they have with Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, and then the addition of Corbin Burns I think is going to be massive for this team this year. missing Felix Bautista is a big blow, but you've brought in the cardiac roller coaster that is Craig Kimbrell in the year 2024. So, see how that goes. But the rest of this team I really do like a lot. Then in the AL Central, I was gonna have the Twins, and then I changed my mind, and now I have the Detroit Tigers winning this division. They started off 3-0. I love the upside of Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter. I think there's a lot to like in this rotation as well, with Tarek Skubal, maybe even a dark horse Cy Young guy this year. And I just think there's a lot on the upside for this team right now. And then the Twins, we always talk about injuries. Royce Lewis already down injured. So I think it's going to be tight between the Tigers and Royals even at this point. I think Tigers, Royals, Twins, but I have the Tigers coming out on top. And then as for the AL West, I have the Seattle Mariners. I think we saw
Astros are washed. They're washed.
Yeah,
obviously,
we saw from the Astros.
Yeah, obviously, they're not a team anymore.
Obviously,
they're not going to win. They're on pace for 162 losses.
Yes, they are.
Let that sink in.
In all seriousness, though, I just don't think the Astros have the pitching over the course of a full season to be able to keep it with the Mariners. That 1-2-3 of Castillo, Gilbert, and Kirby is just absolutely unfair.
Yeah.
So I think Mariners get it done for AL West finally this season.
Yeah, a little more differences in our AL division winners. I do agree with you with the Mariners in the West. I just think they get it done over Texas and Houston, kind of for the same pitching. I mean, but the Mariners, I think they're gonna have a year like the Orioles had last year. Just that young team coming together, getting it done. They're kind of leaders on the mound, doing their job, and I think you're gonna see it come together like it should have last year. And it did in spurts, but I think they get it done in a very close division race like it is every year. I mean, last year was fun. The Central, I have the Royals. I mean, like I said earlier, they're smashing the baseball right now, and Royce Lewis for the Twins that kind of cemented that pick. I mean, you can go back and forth, Twins, Royals, maybe the Tigers. We'll see how they play, if they can glue together. But I think the Royals are just the team to stand on top, and I think Bobby Miller carries his team to a division win, and he's the face of the franchise, and for good reason. I mean, he's a generational talent, and I'm super excited to watch him.
It definitely is Bobby Witt Jr. time out there.
Oh yeah. And the East, you had the Orioles. I have the Yankees. I love the Orioles, and this one I bounced back and forth with too. I had to go with the Yankees, especially when they get Garrett Cole back. They're only going to get that much better.
Yeah.
So you got to go Yankees. The Yankees for a reason, and I think that lineup carries them to another East Division title. As far as the wild card goes, I have the Orioles. I do have the Orioles in the wild card, along with Houston and Texas. Like I said, 3 teams getting in that West. Both NL and AL West are just so tough.
Yeah.
I think they get 3 teams in both leagues. And deservedly. The Texas Rangers lineup is just that good to overcome their pitching, and they're getting pitching back too. It's not like they're not going to have pitching all year, and of course you can trade for whoever. And the Houston Astros, same thing. Lineups. They're the Houston Astros. The lineup they have now is solid and great. And the Orioles. Just a great young fun team, and they're going to get another talent in Jackson Holliday, who they'll pull probably really soon. Maybe they're trying to wait for us to get an extra service year on him. I agree with teams doing that, but I kind of hate it because you want to see guys in the game. But we'll see when they call him up. It's really going to be really soon if they're not trying to get a service year out of him. But so Orioles, Houston, and Texas.
For me, it's going to be the Yankees as my number 1 wild card. I think that they're right there with the Orioles. I just think the loss of Garrett Cole for the first bit of the season is going to be what gives the Orioles the edge here over the course of a full season. I think they'll have enough of a margin from that to hold on to that division lead until the end. Then also Astros and Rangers, the 2 Texas teams. Both of these teams are really, really good teams, really quality squads. And this Rangers team, I kind of debated with them versus the Blue Jays for a little bit just because of the Rangers' lack of pitching. But I think
I also debate with
this Rangers lineup is good enough to carry them all the way.
Yeah, I agree. But next week we'll have our Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, MVP predictions for y'all. Those are always fun. We're going to depth on those guys. I think it's going to be really fun.
And every single award is being won by Christian Yelich.
He's not even eligible for half those awards. But if he was, he would win them. No, he wouldn't. I think he's on I think he's still on his decline from that MVP caliber.
Nice. He's hitting 50 homers this year easily. Write it down now.
But yeah, super excited to get into those next week. Moving to NASCAR now. Richmond, we were kind of dreading.
Talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. In a race we were dreading. How do you think the racing was?
It was Richmond. Like
It was a strategy field.
I think that the wet weather at the beginning and then the chaos at the end kind of saved public perception of this race a little bit. But with a track that's so dependent on strategy, when you just throw a random caution in the middle of it and kind of take out that strategy element, which again, if you
By random caution, are you talking about Kyle Busch?
Yeah, I am talking about Kyle Busch, and that just ruined the flow of this race, what little that it actually had. It's impossible to pass without the benefit of these new tires and strategy, and I feel like the ability to race side by side and pass is what sets NASCAR apart from a lot of other motorsports, where, especially like F1, you can't pass. It's just about purely who has the fastest car a lot of the time, and then with Richmond, I feel like it's worse F1, where you can't pass unless you're on this differing strategy when you're on these green flag laps, because you have cars like excessively faster cars are going to be able to pass eventually, but it's all built on this I don't want to say artificial strategy element, but it is, because the reason the strategy exists is because of stage cautions.
I mean,
so you've kind of set it up to where I don't know,
even at the end of the race, Mark Truex was in lap traffic, guys who were 1 to 2 laps down, and he couldn't pass. He said on his radio, I mean, his crew chief was like, "Hey, you got to go get these spots. Like, they're coming behind you. You got to go get them." And he was pissed.
He's like, "I can't."
He's like, "I can't. Every time I get to him, I'm aero blocked. Like, that's a problem, and that's just lack of horsepower."
You know how much F1 PTSD I got from hearing aero tight now with NASCAR as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's no way a car that's dominated the race should struggle to pass,
Austin Dillon.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous, but...
Welcome back to weekly unnecessary Austin Dillon shade.
Yeah, he's catching a lot of flanger from this. But yeah, just the officiating, we'll talk more about it when we get to the end, but... Oh, it was bad, but I mean, let's just get to the end. Denny Hamlin won, his second win of the year. Both have come at short tracks. I don't discredit Denny Hamlin for jumping the start.
I mean, if they're gonna let you,
we say he jumped the start. According to NASCAR, he didn't. But according to everyone,
are we gonna have the video in the edit?
We are.
Okay, so you'll be able to see the jump start by Denny Hamlin, where he clearly goes before the line.
And the NASCAR officiating team decided they weren't gonna review it, and then later they said, "Oh, yeah, we reviewed it. We definitely reviewed it. We 100% looked at everything, reviewed it, made the best judgment call possible."
See, my issue with this is you said, "Yeah, but it was really close, and circumstances we weren't sure." Then what is track limits from last week? What are we doing? Where is the consistency in literally anything at all?
Two huge just blunders from NASCAR officiating. I mean, Kyle Busch, that should not have been a caution. He dinked the wall. Did he lose a spot? Maybe. Nothing. I mean, yeah. I just think they were like, oh, something's gonna happen. We gotta throw a caution.
If we're gonna have cautions for hitting the wall, wait until we get to like Kansas or something, and we're gonna have cautions every 6 laps for Austin Dillon again.
Yeah, at Darlington, they're just gonna throw the
yeah.
Yeah. But John Hunter Nemechek's standing was bad. But Denny Hamlin jumped the start, won. Mark Truex was not shy of using his words in his interview after the race.
Yeah.
He came upset. He said, Denny Hamlin jumped the start and, pushed me way too high up into turn one, and that was the race pretty much.
Which he was right.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what happened, but he was certainly pissed, and
yeah,
and he had a right to be.
You kind of feel bad for Kyle Larson getting just taken out on the front stretch for no reason after the start line, but to be fair, I think this could have gone a lot worse for Kyle Larson, if we want to talk about that for a second, where some people are saying that was intentional from Bubba Wallace, by the way. If you watch the video, Wallace clearly gets loose.
Larson gets loose.
Yeah, they both get loose and hit each other. It's NASCAR. And then the caution, Larson was able to recover and finish third pretty easily, so very lucky for him. But a guy who I think had a slightly under-the-radar great and really needed weekend due to all the other headlines going on, I think a guy who went under the radar was Joey Logano, who we've been talking about all season. Well, Logano's in trouble. Finished really well in this race. Had a great race for once. Had a really fast car and something that not just Logano, but I think Ford needed as well, especially on a weekend where Ryan Blaney was pretty much nowhere.
Right, and I mean it's kind of been the opposite all year. You've seen Ryan Blaney hang out around the top 5, top 10, and Joe Logano's way back. I mean, you had Daytona and Atlanta where Joe Logano looked good and just got tangled up, but other than that, just Blaney's been up the front, Logano's been in the back. So it's almost like Penske has a car each week, and they go, They go, Ryan Blaney won the championship last year, but we've given it to Ryan Blaney a lot this year. Logano, would you like to drive a fast race car this week? It's like they get one car and they're just dishing it out.
We're going to wait for the weekend where they give Austin Cindric the car, then they all finish lower than 15th. That's how you'll know.
Wasn't that Atlanta?
Yeah, but the cars got wrecked.
Yeah, but
anyway, I think for Logano, they finally started building a car that was more based on a race setup than a quick qualifying setup, which I think they've fallen into the trap of this year, especially at Vegas. But back to Denny Hamlin for a little bit. Something that we have to do is obviously our burnout ratings.
Yeah.
So what are you going to give this one?
It was really bad at first. Like at first, I was like, well, that's like a 2, probably a 2, 1, 2, because he just kind of, which I thought if they showed an angle, there's a truck like right on the field. I thought he was gonna hit the safety truck.
Yeah.
But he just kind of did like
Juan Pablo Montoya.
Yeah, he did a loop and just like stopped for a second, and then he saved it with a super long burnout in the front stretch. But I think I'm gonna give it a 4. Denny Hamlin, I've seen him do better. I know he can do better.
Especially that Bristol one this year.
Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks ago you have that burnout, and now you have a 4. But what did you get it?
I'm giving it a 0 because I picked Martin Truex to win this race, and I'm very upset.
Yeah, still doesn't have a correct pick all year. I have 2. We'll get into our picks for Martinsville next week, but just to wrap up on Richmond, 2 guys, one really especially we've been worried about, but Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott looked the most like Hendrick drivers and cars that they have all year.
I felt terrible for Bowman this weekend, a guy that we've given a lot of flack towards this year. Finally was running consistent top 5, had an obvious really good car, and then just that phantom caution for Kyle Busch knocked him completely out of the running, trapped him way back.
This goes back to last week for Bowman, ran well at Coda.
Yeah.
But yeah, just got, I mean, I was on the same strategy as Larson. It just, the untimely caution just, got him kind of lap down, which sucked, but he did have, it showed some speed and it showed some good, so he's got to be confident knowing that, okay, I can run with these boys at a track that's not a, super speedway or whatnot. So just good to see from him. Elliott, top 5 finish. He ran in the top 10, top 5 most of the race, so good to see him kind of get up to Chase Elliott's speed. And they showed a graphic yesterday. Brad Keselowski got the most starts without a win, but right after Brad Keselowski,
it's Elliott.
Chase Elliott with 40. I mean, I didn't realize, like, I knew it had been a while, but 40 races just puts in perspective. I mean,
well, it's funny because to me it feels even longer than that because of the suspension and the injury and stuff.
So I kind of take all of last year and say, okay, he only raced like a couple races last year, so I just kind of get rid of last year. So if you just think about like the starts, I mean, 40s, definitely been like if you add the races he missed, it's been 60 races.
Yeah.
But obviously those don't count because he didn't have a chance. But yeah, 40 races. I mean, he's got to lock up a win soon. But I think he's trending that way. I mean, look out for him. I mean, you've seen what Larson and Bowman can do in those cars.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just, look out for him. I want to look out for him this weekend, but, I mean, especially with all the road courses on the schedule now, he's got some races that are definitely Chase Elliott style races to kind of come back. Talladega coming up. He's got a few wins there. So, yeah, just finally looking like Hendrick cars. And another driver I want to give a shout out to is Josh Berry. I know the end result doesn't really kind of show what kind of race he had, but he started 30th, and in the first stage really ran up to the top 10, and the second stage ran second for a couple laps of the race. So really fast car, really great. That's kind of a Josh Berry track though. I mean, those are his types of track.
Well, he finished second there in relief for Chase Elliott last year, so
I mean, it's just good start for Berry. Haas is still struggling. I mean, they don't have a driver.
Well, I think the thing for Barry in this one was it was either the end of stage 2 or the start of stage 3. He had a pit stop that was about 17 seconds.
Yeah, super slow.
And just absolutely killed him, put him all the way back, and then the car wasn't quite good enough to drive all the way up again. But if you watched him towards the end of the race, he was making passes on guys like Buescher towards the back end of the top 10, really starting to get into those guys at the very end of the race. So I definitely think he had a top 5 car today. Just unfortunate the Stewart-Haas pit crew denied him.
Yeah, it may have been the fact that the track was a little more wet at the beginning of the race, kind of because he's so good at a track like that and his driving is that good. He kind of overcame the wetness of the track where
Yeah.
other drivers didn't. Other drivers just kind of hung back, kind of trying to figure out the track, and he got it immediately. It looks
Well, that's
like.
why I think you saw as well a Kyle Larson take off and be so great the first part of this race, and then maybe slightly more down to earth in the back half.
Right, and I mean I'm a fan of these wet weather tires.
Yeah.
I mean they're not the rain tires; they're wet weather tires. Last year they would have raced this morning. They would have raced, and Martin Truex would have won if they would have raced today.
Yeah.
Monday Martin win. But the wet weather tires seem to be a hit. They work. Not a whole lot of wear on them, but they only ran 20, 30 laps on them.
Yeah.
So I mean, props to NASCAR in that. I mean, Goodyear's had a good year for.
Yeah.
I mean, the tire wear at Bristol that was not intended, and the wet weather tires that debuted at North Wilkesboro last year. But exciting stuff for rainy race fans.
Yeah.
And just one more thing, Bubba Pollard, he's a guy that I've seen win personally a few times in Pensacola. That track's very close to my home. I've been there a lot. I've seen the Snowball Derby. I go there over the summer. So I was super excited when I found out that Dale Jr. was giving him a shot in the Xfinity. And
he ran really well.
Yeah, finished sixth in his debut. He's 37, so it is pretty old for a debut. But I mean, he's just a guy who's been content running late models at short tracks around the country, and he's really good at it. So glad to see him get a start. And probably won't be the last.
What I don't think that sixth shows is towards the end of that race when you had the incident with Joey Gase throwing his bumper, he was down in about like 22nd and drove from all the way back there up to sixth like it was nothing in the last part of this race. So he had a really, really impressive final run.
Right. But before we move on from NASCAR, Martinsville's coming up. Another short track. I feel like we've had a lot of short. We've gotten our. Yeah. We've eaten good if you're a short track fan.
And don't worry, get excited because after that we're going to Texas.
But then, just kind of get through Texas and just get super amped up for another super speedway race, which the two we've had this year, especially Atlanta, was incredible.
Yes.
So Talladega's always just a fun race. Maybe not for the drivers. I know they have words about it, but I love Talladega. It's my hometown track, obviously being from Alabama. So yeah, but Martinsville, what type of racing do you see? Do you think we see more of what we saw at Bristol, or do you think of what we saw towards the end of Richmond when the track was dry?
I don't know. Martinsville is such a one-groove racetrack traditionally that I think this will be closer to Richmond. However, I think Martinsville has more of that kind of short track culture where you just kind of move a guy. So I think you still will see guys passing each other, although I think you're not going to have maybe as many into the corner moves as you have middle of the corner you run into somebody, and that's how you pass here. But I hope it's good because this is one of my favorite tracks in NASCAR. I used to love watching Martinsville all the time, and just the way short tracks have gone, it's made it a little less enjoyable. So for its sake, I hope it is better.
No, I mean, I don't want to agree with you, but I do. I just don't think we see the tire wear we saw at Bristol just because the way the track's configured. But I do think it's going to be more like Richmond, maybe with a little more passing, just because it is a track where you can just get into the bumper of somebody and it's perfectly fine. So I think it's going to be more towards Richmond, but more exciting because I know there's a lot of buzz around Richmond just because of what happened, but the race all in all really wasn't anything special.
Yeah.
Which kind of killed. I mean, we as NASCAR fans, we struck gold. The first, 7 races were incredible.
We had photo finishes, some cars memes.
Yeah, so really great 7 races. Richmond kind of slowed it down. Martinsville, I think, is going to be better than Richmond, so it'll be good to see. And then we'll ignore Texas. We'll take an off week and then go to San Diego. What if Texas just comes out of nowhere and has a great race?
If Texas gives us a banger, this season might be.
The vibe is given. But we're excited to see Martinsville. I am going with the driver that maybe should have won last night at Richmond. I'm going with Martin Truex Jr. I mean, he's just
been Martinsville. He's been clever.
He's been really good this year. Both short tracks have been his 2 best races. So he's going to get a short track win this year, and I think he's just really, really pissed off.
Yeah.
Obviously after yesterday, so he's going to come out and dominate this weekend, I think.
I'm going to pick a guy who, since I'm picking him, is going to finish 3rd after having a really fast car all race, and that is going to be Kyle Larson. It's Hendrick at Martinsville. I was debating between him and Christopher Bell. I think that's...
Hendrick's got the throwback schemes this week, too.
Yeah.
For Hendrick. Their first win way back when. So Hendrick weekend.
I definitely think you're going to get some NASCAR scripted people coming out of the woodwork this weekend after Kyle Larson wins this for Hendrick and his.
The only time, if Bowman wins, I'd be like, maybe it is. But I mean, if Larson, Byron win, whatever, and if Elliott wins,
you'll be too happy to care.
Right. I mean, that could happen because I mean he's run well at both short tracks this year, and he's trending up. So I mean, if he wins, I'm not going to be shocked, but I'm definitely going to be super ecstatic, especially on a week like that for Hendrick Motorsports. But yeah, I mean that's all we got for NASCAR. Let's move over to F1. We're back racing this weekend in Suzuka,
Japan. This is one of the best tracks on the calendar. If you've never seen a race at Suzuka, get ready because this maybe not the best wheel-to-wheel action all the time, but as far as just the beauty of the track and the speed of the cars and just watching them go around, this is one of the best tracks to watch on the entire F1 calendar. Now, it has had a bit of a reputation for being not close the past 2 years, and that's because Max Verstappen has just entered God mode the last 2 times.
And he's going to this week because he didn't finish last week, so now he's pissed off.
Well, last year, this was the race after Singapore, which Carlos Sainz won last year, and Verstappen came in and just demolished everybody. So, because of that, I'm taking Verstappen to win again, although I do have Lando Norris in second this week. I think all the high-speed corners here at Suzuka really benefit McLaren. I think their car will go really well here. And then in third, I have Charles Leclerc back on the podium once again in that third spot. I think that Oscar Piastri is going to be right there with him for that last podium spot. I just don't think Piastri is good enough at his tire management skills yet to be able to stay ahead of a Leclerc for the entire race, so still think we get one Ferrari on the podium, but yeah, Verstappen by about 40 seconds this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of adopted the F1 spirit this week with my predictions and kind of said, well, past few years, F1's kind of been, you can, first race, these are your results, you can pretty much take them and run with them for the rest of the season. So I have Verstappen winning, Leclerc in second, I think Ferrari keeps up the momentum with the podiums, and I have Perez in third. I haven't really shaken them up at all this year. But I just think that's how F1's going to go this year. I think your Red Bull's on top, Ferrari's there, and then McLaren.
And Alpine's in last.
Yeah, Alpine's in last. And McLaren's probably your third team because we've seen some struggles with Mercedes and Aston Martin. But
I do want to say, though, keep an eye out for pole this weekend. Maybe a sneaky Oscar Piastri pole because even though he doesn't have the tire management skills that Lando Norris does, he sometimes has been able to pip Norris on these qualifying sessions, and with how fast McLaren are in these high-speed corners, I think you could see a monster first sector out of him, or even Norris. So watch out for maybe a sneaky McLaren pole this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the track's kind of made for the type of cars they build right now. So I think Norris or Piastri is probably going to be your pole if Verstappen has an off day.
Yep, it should be fun, though. Suzuka is always entertaining, at least to me, even if the wind isn't particularly close, just because of the nature of the track, and it's beautiful out there, too, this time of year. So even if it's not close, you can look at all the pretty trees.
Yeah, and it definitely is a pretty track. But before we let you go, like we said, March Madness is coming to a close. But with it coming to a close, we have Final Four.
I thought it came to a close like 2 weeks ago. My bracket exploded.
Yeah, you're mine, but mine lasted a little longer than you. And as soon as we talked about it, it just went.
Yeah, kiss of death right there.
Yeah, I should have known better. But that's what I do. I talk about sports and my opinions on them. But
once again, we're not basketball people. This is why we don't talk basketball.
No, but our final, or not our Final Four, the Final Four is always a good time. Especially, I mean, the Final Four we have now. You have 2 1 seeds and UConn and Purdue. I mean,
UConn looks like a wagon.
Yeah, and I mean,
a 30-0 run in the Elite Eight is
against Illinois.
Unheard of.
Great team.
It's insane.
And I mean, Purdue, their first Final Four since 1980. But God, the game they played over the weekend was dominant. I mean, Zach Edey just put on a class, man.
Yeah, teams don't know how. I know a lot of people say the refs don't know how to officiate him. What it is teams don't know how to defend him without fouling a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there are bad calls in there somewhere, but at the end of the day, he's just a really good player that knows how to use his size effectively. So, but the matchup between him and DJ Burns for NC State should be very entertaining. NC State's first Final Four since 1983, so
an 11 seed going into tournament.
2 teams who haven't been here in a while, and NC State's 14 losses are actually the most ever by a team in the men's Final Four, which is a fun stat.
A legendary run. And Alabama, first Final Four in
forever.
Yeah. So, props to them. I mean, Nate Oates was coaching high school basketball 10 years ago. So that's just a testament to his work ethic and his coaching ability. So
I think a lot of people are writing Alabama off, especially down here at Auburn. It was like, oh, Alabama's not going to be able to win anything. But if Mark Sears gets hot, Alabama can do. I don't know. I think if Sears gets hot, you could see this Alabama team win it all easily because I don't think that. Definitely NC State doesn't have the perimeter defense. I don't know that Purdue has the perimeter defense for Sears because you get right in his face, he just shoots over you and it goes in.
right.
And even though UConn put a 30-0 run on Illinois went 0 for 17 and missed some wide open shots in that. And a lot of teams, when they play UConn, have not been able to knock down chances when they have had them, and I don't think that'll be a problem for Sears. So I think I would say if Sears hits 25, Alabama could win this game.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing that I've seen in Alabama this tournament is they have played almost a different style game.
They have
every game.
Yeah, you have the Grant Nelson legacy game versus North Carolina. The uh, Jared Stevenson.
Yeah,
Who absolutely went crazy career day versus Clemson in the Elite Eight. So this Alabama team has proven they can be flexible. Nate Oates is a great coach, and I think that they have a chance. I wouldn't write them off. I still would pick UConn, but I'm not saying Alabama has no chance at all.
I think UConn gets it done over Alabama just because I don't see Alabama's defense kind of being able to stop UConn. But I mean, if their defense can step up and lock them down, then I think if Alabama makes it past UConn, I think they're national champion, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's definitely going to be a really good matchup, and NC State and Purdue is going to be a good matchup. Just exciting basketball to watch. I'm excited for them to see who makes it to the national title.
Yeah.
Who do you think is your national title though out of these four teams?
UConn. I don't see how I can pick against UConn right now with the form that they've been on.
Who do they beat?
I want to say they beat NC State.
That was my pick. I think Purdue did look great, but they just have a knack for kind of losing.
What's funny too is so you look at this Purdue team. You know what they always get made fun of? Losing to double-digit seeds, and it's going to curse them again here with the only double-digit seed to make the Final Four in NC State. So they still make a deep run and still find a way to lose to a double-digit seed this year.
Yeah, I think UConn over NC State, and I think it's good. I think if it is UConn over UConn and NC State, I think it's an ugly national title game.
Yeah,
I think a lot
like
of
what
people,
we saw last year with UConn and San Diego State.
Yeah, I think a lot of people aren't watching come 6 minutes to go. So
or 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, maybe. But we'll just have to wait and see what you got.
I think that's it for this week.
All right, we'll see y'all next week with more baseball, NASCAR, F1, and our final recap on March Madness. So super exciting stuff. Yeah, see y'all later.